All right, we are officially live. It's going to start with Lindsay changing and adjusting her hair.
Not again.
As is one of the best ways to start off any of these videos. So here's what we need you to do. If you guys and gals, in the Midwest we say guys, you guys, y'all, if you're in the South. If you can see this right now, if you can see us, go ahead and respond in the chat and say, oh yeah, uh-huh, or woot woot. What would be another thing that people could say, Linz?
Hiya.
Hiya. That's one of my favorites. So let us know. We're going to just kind of be hanging out here a little bit. I cannot see the actual live video right now because that would be super distracting, but I can see the chat. So I'm going to be checking in on the chat. So if you see me or Lindsay kind of looking over here, checking in, that's what we're going to be doing. We have two screens, two monitors, going totally techie today, and pulling up multiple different avenues of video and online consumption of all things. So if you can see us right now, if you can hear us, let us know in the chat area. Give us an oh yeah or an uh-huh. You might need to, for people that are in the chat, for people that can't see, you can remind the other people to refresh the page because we have the holder video that's on there. So we'll just kind of hang out here for a little bit, maybe 5 minutes or so before officially starting. And what I'd love to hear is if the audio is okay. So we have this nice official mic, look at that. But can you guys hear that okay? Usually I'm really close up to it like this. But just wondering if you guys can hear this okay. So let me know if you can hear it all right. If it sounds okay. Ideally, we would have it down here like this. So let me know if that sounds all right. We can bump the audio if it's a little bit hard to hear. Okay, great. So you can hear okay, sounds good. And Jasmine, as Jasmine said, if you can't see it, go ahead and refresh. Let's do this. Let's connect real quick, and we're going to do official introductions in a little bit, but would love to hear this is one of my favorite things to do for any of these presentations, what you are drinking this morning or evening. Somebody's coming from Hong Kong, I saw, and it's 2 a.m. So they're truly committed.
Amazing.
So I have two things here. I have a coffee with cream. It's a half-calf coffee. Linz, what do you have?
I have a tea. It's a like the Good Earth tea. Is that, do people know that outside of Minnesota?
Good Earth?
Is that like I don't know. Do you guys know the Good Earth tea? It's like sweet and spicy. It's like a black tea. Oh. Kind of orangey and cinnamony. It's very delicious.
And I also have, it's become a thing now, a LaCroix. I feel like even if I'm not drinking it, people are going to ask about it at this point, so I need to put it in there and make a point of having LaCroix close by. So we're getting people to slowly but surely tune in here and connect in. And what I would love to do is make sure that everybody is here before we really jump into it. If you're having trouble with your chat, like if you can see the video, but you're having trouble with the chat, what you can do is refresh. So if ever there's an issue, two things I would suggest. Number one, refresh. And then number two, try a different browser. So if you're having issues maybe with the video, or if you're having issues with the chat, you can always check out a different browser and try that. So should we jump in, Linz?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So here's how this is going to work. This is kind of fun. We're going super techie for this. And what we're going to do is we're going to screen share. I have my slides, and then Lindsay is sharing her computer screen to the screen that then we are sharing to you. So we're going to try this to see if it works. And I am going to share the screen. And then what I would love to hear from you is if you can see both the slides as well as Lindsay's phone. So go ahead and let me know if you can see those two things. And that will be happening in, let's say, 3, 2, 1. It should be live now. We should be up in the corner. In the chat, let me know if you can see this video to start. And then if you can see Lindsay's Instagram off to the side. Can you guys all see that? Great. So let's go ahead and jump in. So this is the Instagram Q&A. We're also calling it kind of a fireside chat. We have 550 people that are here live. We had over 3,000 people sign up. And here we are in our little office presenting this information. And I think that's so cool.
It is cool.
The internet.
It's the internet.
It's the internet. I am constantly amazed by the internet.
We love the internet.
We love the internet. So Instagram Q&A. I'm not an Instagram expert. I have some thoughts and opinions on it, but Lindsay's really the resident expert here. And we're going to be talking about this really big milestone that Pinch of Yum recently had, hitting 500,000 followers. So what does that look like? What is the agenda? Well, here it is. We're going to do introductions. We'd love to hear from the people that are live. Almost 600 people that are here tuning in live right now. So we want to do that. Lindsay's going to share 7 different tips that she has for Instagram, the things that played a really big role in getting to that 500,000 mark. And that would be some really great takeaways from that for everybody. So I'm excited about that. We're going to jump into then the Q&A section for Instagram. And then we're going to be talking about Food Blogger Pro a little bit. And that's one of the reasons that we do these presentations. There's kind of twofold. We want them to be as valuable as possible and offer as much information as possible. And then we also talk about Food Blogger Pro, which is a membership site that we have for food bloggers. And I'd actually be interested in hearing, sometimes the chat people will also be, or people that are attending live in the chat area will also be Food Blogger Pro members. So would love to hear from you if you are a Food Blogger Pro member to give a little shout out in the chat area, because it would be fun. I always love seeing who people are, and I've recognized some names already. So it'd be fun to see.
Did you turn Do Not Disturb on?
I didn't, no. So there's messages coming in.
Isn't it the?
Yeah.
It should have been on.
I think it should be on. Well,
I'm getting messages.
You'll see messages come in.
Yeah.
In real time. And if we need to, we can go like this and hide it maybe. Oh, no, you can't. Is that the Do Not Disturb? Right?
It's weird because I have that on like when I do workshops and stuff, and sometimes I still get calls and texts.
That will be your tip for us, is if we're doing that wrong.
Yeah.
So that's going to be the general agenda. So today's goals, what do we have for the goals today? Number 1, have fun. We want to enjoy this. I think that these can be really fun things to do and fun to connect in person here on the chat area, or as in person as these online things can be. We're going to help you build your Instagram following. Obviously, that's the point, that the reason for doing this, and one of the things that we're really excited about. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Food Blogger Pro at the end, and a little bit in the beginning here as well. So let's do this. Say hi, who you are, where you're watching from today. I would love to hear from people all around the world, all around the US, all around the world as well. And then if you have a blog, what that name, the name of the blog is, or if you don't have a blog, maybe the brand that you post to on Instagram. Quick tip here, if it sounds kind of annoying in the chat area, that's because you haven't silenced the chat. So make sure to do that. You can hit that little silence button in the chat area, and that will keep the ping from happening. And there's a lot of conversations happening right now, so be sure to do that. Who are we? We're Bjork and Lindsay.
Yep, there we are.
There we are.
Looking a little formal.
A little more formal than we do this morning. And cool. Then we have Sage, our dog Sage. And maybe at the end today, we can have Sage come in and say hi. She is currently, believe it or not, sleeping in the other room, which she does often. We have 2 sites that we focus a lot of our time and energy on, as well as a couple other ones that we're starting out. But the 2 sites that we focus on, Pinch of Yum. So this is Lindsay's food blog, and we've been doing this since 2010. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Long time. Food recipes, some lifestyle stuff, blogger resources, things like that. You want to say anything about Pinch of Yum?
It's just where I share recipes and talk about our life.
Great, cool. If you guys are familiar with Pinch of Yum, would love to hear if you've ever made a recipe from there.
Yeah, that would be fun.
So would love to hear what that is. Or maybe a favorite recipe that you have for those of you that are familiar with Pinch of Yum. Food Blogger Pro is a place where I spend a lot of my time, and it really focuses on helping people build and grow a food blog or a food and recipe site or brand. And we've been doing this since 2013. So we're coming up to 4 years now. And love the community of Food Blogger Pro. There's over 2,600 people that are members there. And we do things from everything from training videos, so building traffic, food photography. Food video has been really important lately. So we have an area where we walk through our entire process for shooting videos for Pinch of Yum and really dive deep into that, editing, shooting, things like that. There's the community forum, and that's where a lot of people ask questions in real time about things that they're struggling with or questions that they have. And Food Blogger Pro team members, as well as Pinch of Yum and Lindsay and I are involved with that. And then we're going to be talking about something called NutriFox a little bit later as well. And that's generating nutrition labels for your food blog. So those are the things that we've been focusing on that we're going to talk about today and that we're really excited about. I'm going to slide that off. And the last thing I was going to say is, if you scroll down on the page, you'll see this thing called Get the Bootcamp Bundle. I wanted to explain that before we jump into the content for today, because it's important to understand what that is. So it's not this foreign thing that you're like, wait a minute, what is this bootcamp bundle? So there's 3 things that includes, and that is Food Blogger Pro, membership to Food Blogger Pro. It includes NutriFox, that nutrition label generator that I talked about, and this thing called Influencer Academy. And with Instagram, one of the really important things, and Lindsay does a lot of this, is the working with brands to produce content and post it to Instagram or a blog. So do you want to talk maybe just quickly about that on Instagram, like how that shows up on Pinch of Yum, where people would see that sponsored content on Instagram?
Sorry, I don't understand.
You were spacing. Were you listening?
Well, kind of,
okay.
But I don't understand the question.
Sorry, I'll clarify. Yeah, so like on Instagram, if people were to go to Instagram and see you doing influencer marketing, where would they see that? In what way would it show up?
Like posts on Instagram.
So like videos or
Yeah, it would be posts or it would be videos, or we'll work with sponsors to create. Sometimes that content like lives on the blog. So we'll have a blog post that we then also do a video for or do a post on social media. But sometimes the content for those brands is only on Instagram. Yep. Like it only lives there. So we have, it almost like has become its own pillar of the ways that we work with brands. Is it's not just like a way to promote a blog post. Sometimes it in and of itself is a standalone thing that a brand is paying us to do for them.
And so we're going to do this thing for people that sign up for the bootcamp bundle called Influencer Academy, where we're going to train on the process and the forms that we use and all of that stuff, because it can be a lot of stuff when you're getting started. So we're going to talk about how we operate in the world of influencer marketing. We're calling it Influencer Academy. So those things separately, $279, $89, $129 are $497, but the bootcamp bundle, you get all of it for $279. So when you,
good deal.
It's a good deal. When you see that little button down there, that's what that's talking about. So I wanted to explain that before we jump into the content, and that ends November 21st. So just wanted to clear that up so you know what that little button is down there, what we're doing, and kind of the dual reason for doing this is to talk about the bootcamp bundle, and then more importantly, to talk about Instagram and how you can grow your Instagram following. So you can submit your questions to foodbloggerpro.com/Instagram-questions. We're going to be pulling those in. Our team is going to be collecting those and passing those along. And we're going to do that after we talk about some of the things that Lindsay would consider to be the most important things to get to this 500,000 mark. So I'm going to pass it off to you, and I will play the role of slide mover.
Okay.
And take it away. Best transition ever.
Can this like tilt down at all? I feel like I'm a little too short for that.
Yeah. How about just the camera like this?
Yeah, that works.
Great.
That's fine. Also, I don't know how to get my, Do
you want me to pull that up?
I mean, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
But it just
this is the world I love operating in, is like tech guy.
Where are you going to be? Are you going to have enough room here?
Wherever you want me to be.
We haven't quite figured out our setup here. Okay, so let's talk about some tips, like before we jump into questions and answering questions. So basically what I have in the next few slides is just 7 like principles or tips or mindset shifts that hopefully kind of lay the groundwork for some of the questions that are going to be asked and the things that we'll be talking about. Can I?
Yep. There we go.
Okay.
And then I'll move this over. How about that? Everybody,
there it is.
If that looks okay, give us some text affirmation of looks great, guys.
Okay. Okay, so let's see here. How do I click this?
Yeah. I'll move it over here.
I did not get a training in this before I was live. Okay. There we go. Okay. So the first thing that I think you should consider, again, this is just like, I'm just going to run through 7 things and kind of like lay a groundwork for how I approach the Pinch of Yum Instagram. So I think it's super important on Instagram specifically to have a really clear brand for your content and what type of content you're producing. Basically to kind of choose and like really dive into a specific niche. We often go back and forth, niche versus niche. We have kind of a ongoing battle about that. It's not really a real battle, but niche is what the people tell me is correct. So niche, the concept that like within food, right, you might want to, or even within the greater scope of all the type of content you could produce, you might want to say, you know, specifically what I'm going to talk about is food, or specifically what I'm going to talk about is you know, DIY food related crafts, or specifically what I'm going to talk about is like gluten-free, living gluten-free, and recipes that go along with that. I think as much as you can have a clear brand and a clear niche and like a clear area that you're focusing on with your content, the easier it's going to be for you to grow your following. For me, for Pinch of Yum, what that looks like is I used to post both like food content that was on my blog and also just pictures of my life, because that's what Instagram is, right? Instagram is like, oh, I went to this concert. Look, it was so fun. Here's a picture of me and my friends at this concert. But I found that when I decided to really like hone in specifically on the food and kind of pull some of my personal life stuff out, that actually allowed me to grow my account faster. The interesting thing is that as a general rule of thumb in content creation, I really feel strongly that story is important and like attachment to the person behind that content is important. But my account on Pinch of Yum, just literally the food account at Pinch of Yum, what you're seeing over there, right there, that is an example where I am not necessarily putting myself personally into that. Because if you think about how you can get new followers on, Instagram, you're going to have people come and look at your account, and within less than 1 second, they're going to decide, is this an account I want to follow or not? And if they see, let's see, I wish that I could like touch these and you could see, but you can see on my current feed, I have all of the photos except that one at the very bottom in the middle they're all food photos. And even that one in the middle is like a travel related photo. But if you would even scroll back a little bit further, it's all food. You're not seeing like a few pictures of Sage, our dog. You're not seeing a few pictures of Bjork and I. You're not seeing like pictures of our house. It's really, really clearly branded. And I think having that clear branding makes it really easy for people to decide if they want to follow or not. I also kind of further that branding by just a really simple bio. So I'm not saying Lindsay Ostrom, I live in St. Paul, I live in, you know, I live with my husband Bjork, and we have a dog Sage, and I love all this other stuff. I will put that on my personal Instagram account because that's more part of my story. But in the case of Pinch of Yum Instagram, who I'm really targeting is such a broad range of people that I want to keep it as broad and far reaching as I possibly can. And in that case, it's just literally the tagline, I like to eat. So it's like telling people right off the bat, this is about food. I think this is my number 2, another important part of this is thinking about your branding for stories. So if I had to like break down the branding of all my different online places, it would be that on the blog on pinchofyum.com, you're going to be reading about recipes, and you're also going to be reading about my life. Like that is just Pinch of Yum equals me. Like that is the same thing. That's how I've chosen to brand Pinch of Yum. Pinch of Yum Instagram, I've pulled my own stories out of it, and I've said, let's just make this a food place, like food only. It's just the recipes and the videos and the photos, but it's all food content. So people really know what they're going to get, and they can follow really quickly with that. But then with the stories, Instagram stories, which is where kind of like the Snapchat-like feature that Instagram added about a year ago, that for me is a place where I'm branding that both recipe and food related and personal. So it's kind of like a hybrid of the blog and my Pinch of Yum Instagram, if that makes sense. So I think about this in terms of who's following me and where they're following. And I feel like there are followers that are like the super fans, and they follow the blog, they watch my stories, and they follow me on Instagram for the recipes. But I think I also have quite a few, I would say like, this is just totally a gut like guess, like an off the cuff guess. I would say like 60% or more of the people that follow me on Instagram don't come to Pinch of Yum, the blog. Like they don't know about me personally, because we're getting to the point where we have enough followers that starts to become more anonymous to them. It starts to take on more of the feel of like a BuzzFeed Tasty or something to that effect, where you don't really know who is behind it necessarily, but you're just there for the food. The stories then are kind of for those Instagram followers that do like the food, but they maybe also want a little bit more. And so that's where I share a little bit more of our personal life is on Instagram stories. Point being, that doesn't have to be true. It's going to be a little bit different for everyone, depending on how you want to brand yourself and what type of content you want to produce and who you want to attract. But making that an intentional decision is really important. Okay, including a call to action in your content. So this is something that we've started doing with Pinch of Yum content on Instagram. And we've started putting in our videos at the end, instead of saying, go to pinchofyum.com, which people aren't going to see that, close out their Instagram app and then go type in pinchofyum.com. Like that wasn't a super useful thing. So instead we're including a call to action at the end of our video content, or even in our captions sometimes, basically asking people to take action on something. And in this case, what we have on our ending slides of our videos for Instagram, it says follow Pinch of Yum for more recipes. So right where they are, right where they're already seeing the video, they're just going in to tap Pinch of Yum and follow. It's just a quick call to action. And that also has to do with my number 4 tip, which is to add value right within Instagram and to stop thinking, this is a huge mindset shift for me, is to stop thinking about Instagram as a way to drive traffic. Instagram is not good at driving traffic. Like, that's not what it was created for. It's created to be kind of this insulated place where people pull open the app, they're on the app, and then they're done with the app and go on to something else. It's not like Pinterest where you find an idea and then you click through to the site, or even Facebook where you read an article and then you're jumping over to that blog or that website or that news site or whatever. Instagram is pretty, it's all in a bubble, right? It's all in the Instagram bubble. So my goal has changed from being bring as many people as possible over to my blog to how can I create so much value that it's going to drive further engagement and attention. And then that engagement and attention is really what becomes the value part of my Instagram presence and Instagram following. And that could be related to branded content that I do. So then we have a brand that comes and says, hey, you have all this attention, you have all this engagement happening on your page because you give all this valuable information. So how can we be a part of that? Which is a good thing. And I would also say that that is advantageous if and when we have our own products that we're pitching to people, where we can say, hey, we've given you free value, free value, free value, free value. We're not asking you to jump to the blog all the time. We're not saying, here's this free thing, but first you have to do this XYZ. We're just giving as much value as possible right within the platform. And then that the attention, that idea of like attention economics, which is something that we talk about a decent amount on Food Blogger Pro. But attention economics being like that's the value, that's the important thing, and not thinking about it as a way to drive traffic as much as just a way to create a community where there's a really engaged conversation happening. Okay, creating emotion is my number 5 tip. So, and that can be done with, I think, with your imagery and with your videos and also with your captions. Anytime you can kind of take something to the next level with like the feeling of, OMG, that's so fill in the blank. That's so good. That's so crazy. That's so weird. I remember BuzzFeed, I think it was BuzzFeed, Tasty did this video for like a green mac and cheese. And we came into the studio, our team came into the studio the day after they posted it. And we were like all talking about it. Like, oh my gosh, did you see that green mac and cheese? I didn't even think it looked good, but it was, it created an emotion, a really strong emotion in me of, oh my gosh, that is so strange and so weird, that we then go and continue to think about it and talk about it together. So as much as you can create emotion, probably most of the time you're gonna want it to be like positive emotion. That can be a really good thing for hooking people. And I think a big way to do that is in captions. And I think it's something often overlooked with people that are doing food related Instagram stuff. Think about how you can, I talked about like removing myself from my Instagram, my Pinch of Yum Instagram. And I would say I remove myself in terms of like pictures of myself, pictures of my dog, pictures of my house, etc. But I don't remove my personal voice. I want there to be something a little bit catchy and different about my caption. So rather than just, in this example, it was a picture of tacos, rather than just saying, oh, beef tacos, yum, they're so good. I said, back from vacay and ready for taco time. I made these tacos with my dinner club, blah, blah, blah. And then saying at the end, they're topped with chimichurri, cilantro, cotija lime, guac, and the whole rest of the gang. Some were good in my mouth. So it's something just a little bit different, and it creates more of a mood, and there's more of a emotion that you can associate with that as opposed to just flat information. Okay, hashtags. Hashtags are super important. Highly recommend that you do your hashtag research. For Pinch of Yum, we probably have anywhere from, I don't know, 15 to 20 maybe hashtags on a post right now. That's always changing. And, you know, Instagram, sometimes you'll hear people saying like, oh, if you do more than 15, you're going to get, what do they call it? When you're like hidden, like you won't actually, your post won't actually show up to people. Kind of like the equivalent of Pinterest jail, if you've ever heard of that, but for Instagram. But we have found that hashtags continue to be effective for us. And one of the most effective ways to use hashtags, in my opinion, is to look for hashtags that larger accounts are using to curate their content. A great example is the Feed, Food 52, Bon Appetit. I don't know if Food and Wine does that, but sites like that have a huge following, like millions of followers, and it's all about just pulling the best food content from around Instagram. And the way that they find that great food content is by just scrolling through their own branded hashtags. So we use a decent amount of those branded hashtags. And then every once in a while, we'll get featured on some of these large sites that have such a big food following. So when they're showing our image and they're saying this post is from Pinch of Yum and the photos from Pinch of Yum, then it's a quick follow. We get new followers really quickly because they click over, they see our feed is all food. So they know exactly what to expect from our feed, and we're able to gain followers that way. A good example of this is my friend Angela. Shout out to Angela. She has an Instagram account that she just started, and it's called Cooking with Ange. If you want to look her up, Cooking with Ange. And she started in April, but she's been able to grow to over 1,000 followers, and I feel like she's been doing all of these things where she has a super clearly branded look and feel for her photos, and it's all food. And so people know exactly what to expect. And she also uses these branded hashtags. And in the case that I'm thinking of, she made a Skinny Taste recipe. So Gina of Skinny Taste saw that it was in the hashtag, or that it had been, that Skinny Taste had been tagged in it, and then regrammed not once, but twice 2 of her photos. And so then she gains more followers from that. So as much as you can, hook into some of those like bigger hashtags that content is pulled from, or even tagging those people that have bigger followings if you make their recipe. And even if they just featured you on their stories or something like that, that can be a really good way to gain followers. And then my last tip, or like mindset shift, is to just use it. Just use the platform and use it intentionally. So not just going on to like look at Instagram, but going on to say, how are people using this, and like what good content is out there, liking posts, commenting on posts, following good accounts that are, you know, doing interesting and kind of groundbreaking things on Instagram. I find that, like, okay, in my opinion, the reason that Instagram is our strongest, one of our strongest, probably our strongest, I think, social media platform, is because I use it all the time. Like, I actually use it like a user. I'm not just there because I want to bring traffic to my site. Like, I'm using it because I love to use Instagram. And so then I start to like speak and understand Instagram language in my mind. Like, I understand what type of content is going to perform. I understand what my audience is looking for, what other people's audiences are looking for. And I just have a better understanding of how things are going to work. Can you talk about the, and bring Bjork back on for this?
Yeah, want to make a dramatic intro?
Oh, okay. Thank you, Bjork.
Whoa.
Okay. That was
really, that cool?
Really
we
cool.
rehearsed that one quite a bit.
We didn't. Can you talk about this idea with when we looked at the social ranking site?
Yep.
Can you talk about that?
Yep. So this is kind of a fun little tool. It's called Social Rank, and I'll pull it up here so you can see it, and then I'll bring it onto the screen. So Social Rank is a way to understand who your followers are, and get a better idea of not only your followers that have the most followers. So like maybe a celebrity follows you and you can see how many, hundreds of thousands of people follow them. But it also has information about who the most engaged followers are. So the people that are liking and interacting with and engaging with your content. And on almost all social media platforms, not only is the content really important, but it's also important to understand as a user, as well as how other people are engaging with your content. So as much as possible, you want to make content that's engaging. And I think there's strategy and intentionality with connecting with the people that are your most engaged followers. And that can look like maybe featuring them on your Instagram stories or giving them a shout out. One of the things that Lindsay's been doing, if you follow along with her Instagram stories, is she's been showcasing different people that will talk about pinch of yum recipes on their Instagram stories. So it's a way to give them a little shout out, to give them recognition, and to provide some energy and excitement around the content. So it's kind of this real time, Lindsay talks about it as a feedback loop, and how that's something that's really beneficial for creating a lively account. And so Social Rank has been a kind of a cool tool for us to use and to experiment with, to understand a little bit better who our followers are and the most engaged followers. Anything you'd add to that?
So I think the point that I would want to make with that is that so when we went in to look at who are our most engaged, what we were actually doing is when we hit 500,000, we wanted to see, are there any celebrities that follow Pinch of Yum? Okay, so that's what, it was like totally a vanity thing. I was like, I want to know if there's any celebrities. So we went and looked at this and found, you can show who are the people that follow me that have the most followers. So that would be your way to figure out who the celebrities are. But then there's this whole other category that they call it, I think, the most valuable. Who are your most valuable followers? And those most valuable followers aren't necessarily people that are celebrities. They're like people I know. They're people that are using the app all the time, that they have a high, I don't even know how they like name it or rank it, but basically these are people that are the most engaged followers, not just with your content, but just across Instagram. And I thought that was so interesting. Like, oh, there is data out there about how much you use Instagram. So if I'm going around and I'm active on the platform, this gets a little bit into like speculation about how the app works and algorithms and things like that. But the more that I use the app like a normal user, the better that's going to be for my account, is kind of the point that I want to make.
Great.
Yeah.
It's a great point. Cool. All right, let's continue moving on here. I'm going to bring Reflector back up so we can see Lindsay's phone. Let me know when you guys can see that, when it's coming through. Okay. Should be coming through in 3, 2, 1. There we go. I'm going to bring this off to the side. And we're going to go into the Q&A part of the talk or keynote or presentation or fireside chat. Fireside chat. Where we're going to be answering some questions. And what we did is we pulled some questions from people that submitted them ahead of time. So we're going to talk about those. If you haven't yet submitted any questions, you can do that by going to foodbloggerpro.com/Instagram-questions, or you can just put them in the chat area, and Alexa, Food Blogger Pro team member extraordinaire, is going to be pulling those over and relaying them to us as well. And I'll try and do a relatively good job of following along with the chat and passing any of those along in real time. So let's go ahead and jump in. How's that sound?
Perfect.
Cool. And for these first ones, I'm pulling where they're from as well, because they're from all around the world, and we think that's so cool.
It is very cool.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with one from Australia. How much time, this ties in really well to the thing that you're just talking about. How much time do you spend each day on Instagram, and how is your time spent?
That is a good question. And kind of embarrassing. No, I mean, it's embarrassing. It's a little bit embarrassing. I would say I spend 2 hours maybe a day on Instagram. That's broken up throughout the day. So it's maybe 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there. Or maybe even less, maybe like 1 minute here, 1 minute there. So maybe between 1 to 2 hours a day. So it's a decent chunk of time. And I'm doing like how that time is spent would be, when this is awful. I don't recommend this. Okay. I have better tips than this, but like I do look at it right when I wake up in the morning. And that's not a good thing. So don't do that. Okay. But I'm looking at it like it's kind of a new place that I'm checking. So for example, whereas before I would sit down and check my email or pull up my email on my phone, now I pull up Instagram and just check, do I have any new messages? What are the new comments on the post? I do not have notifications on. I would be going bonkers if I had notifications turned on. So I keep those turned off. But I do go and check periodically throughout the day. And I would say 30% of my time is spent just looking, just like perusing, just using Instagram like a user. And 30% of my time is spent either posting content or responding to comments. And then 30% of my time is spent on stories and responding to the messages from those stories. So that's kind of a breakdown of how my time is spent. And it's really all throughout the day. One hack that I've been trying lately is, and maybe this will come up later too if we talk about best posting time, but I think traditionally the best posting time is considered to be like in the evening or kind of in the off hours, like not during the workday. But I've started posting more during the workday because I myself need to not be on Instagram at night. Like I need to have a time when I'm not on Instagram. And because this is my job, I'm trying to put this in the hours of a 9 to 5. And then in the evening, just pulling back. And we actually have a little box that I like put my phone in sometimes for, you know, a little bit just to like keep it put away. So it's important to have boundaries, but that being said, I do use Instagram a lot and probably 1 to 2 hours a day in like small increments, maybe 5, 10, 15-minute increments.
Cool, great. And questions are continuing to come in here and we will hit those in a little bit. We'll continue working through some of these questions that came in ahead of time. From the United States of America, what is the value of Instagram followers for food bloggers as most of the traffic does not come from there? I think this is a really important topic and ties into some of the influencer marketing stuff as well, attention economics. Do you want me to talk about that a little bit and you can as well? Okay, great. So I think one of the really important things to do, and this is the height differential, so we got to adjust this. I think one of the really important things to do is to think about the conversations that you're having with people and pay attention to that in the weeks and months to come. And pay attention to how people talk about getting information. And one of the things that I've noticed really consistently is people talk really often about seeing something on Facebook or I saw on Instagram. And what that tells me is that the attention of people oftentimes is on these social media platforms. And what you see then is brands realizing that and starting to put some of their attention on these platforms. And so sometimes I think we get stuck in this idea of traffic. I need more traffic. I want more traffic. But in actuality, all that traffic does is it gets you attention. And much like an event like this, where we have right now 720 people that are watching this, this isn't necessarily a lot of traffic, but it's a lot of attention. And that's really valuable. The same can be true for Instagram and other social media platforms. It's really important and really, this is like a real-time feed of me.
Yes,
that's great. Okay,
story.
so this is a story. This is Inception.
Just ignore. Just ignore.
It's
not distracting at all.
Impossible for me to ignore.
Hello.
That's awesome. So the point is that attention, and maybe this would be a good example, that story that Lindsay's doing right now, that's not going to drive any traffic, but that's going to be attention that's connected to the post. And so as much as possible as influencers and as people that are producing content, think about attention before traffic and think about how you can engage with people. And oftentimes what happens is we get stuck in this mindset of traffic because maybe we're thinking about monetizing via ads, or we're thinking about ways that we can get people to our site because then that pushes our page views up and we can charge more for sponsored content. But what we see and what we've seen for a while is that brands are also starting to shift their attention to these social media platforms. And that's the idea with Influencer Academy, which I talked about at the beginning, is we're starting to think about how can we shift or change our strategy so we're not just thinking about the blog, but we're also thinking about each of these as a separate siloed area. It's all connected, but some people come to us and they only want to work with us on Instagram and they're not interested in working on the blog. So in and of itself, it's a platform, and the traffic would be the engagement, the attention, views on an Instagram story like the one that Lindsay just posted, or people liking and engaging with the post. I tried to power through. It was so hard to do that with watching the little story, but I think I made it.
Do you want to see the story?
Yeah, we can see it. There it is.
Oh, there it is. Here.
All right. This is you talking about this event. And
there
I am.
Is.
It's my good side, my right side.
And you can see the dirty closet in the background.
Hey, it's not that dirty.
It's dirty, yeah.
It's pretty dirty. Cool. Anything that you would add to that one, Linz?
No, I think that's perfect.
Okay. Great. And then maybe, follow up on this, Linz.
Yeah.
This was coming from Chef Billy. Said, can you give a few examples of other food pages on Instagram who do it well? Do you have people that you can think of off the top of your head?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like BuzzFeed Tasty is obviously, or like BuzzFeed Food. I don't know if they're BuzzFeed Tasty. I think they're just Tasty on Instagram. BuzzFeed Food. I really like, I can't remember if it's Bon Appetit or Food and Wine. I think it's Bon Appetit. They have a really good, like, here, do you mind if I just look it up?
Nope, that'd be great.
A really good, like, whoever does their writing is super, they have amazing captions. And like, yes, like this is super cute and clever. It says over on Healthyish, which is another one I love, Healthyish. Healthyish, a bejeweled rice that'll steal the Thanksgiving turkey's show. Sorry, turkey. Grab the riff on Marasa Palau. I've never heard of that before. Through the link in our profile. So it's just like super quick, but there's a little bit more. It's a little bit more than just like the basic description. So I really like Bon Appetit's social like copy, the social messaging. Yeah, I mean, I have different ideas for different things, but those would be some of the big ones that I really like. And I think I'll talk about some of the other ones when I get into it too.
Yep. And we can hit any follow-up questions with that. If you want more specifics on examples, we could talk about those as well. So this is somebody from Spain that says, I have 47,000 followers and high engagement, but I have a personal account. I'm wondering if it's going to be negative for my Instagram to switch to a business account. So if you talk about some of the thinking that you had, you talked about that a little bit before, but some of your strategy and thought process with that.
Yeah. So I'm, Pinch of Yum recently has switched to a business account, but I had the same hesitation that you did, you, the question asker, mostly because Instagram is owned by Facebook. Like we have to think like they're kind of operating on the same, with the same mindset. And I know what it has meant for me with all the algorithm changes and being a business page on Facebook. And that has not necessarily been a really good thing. And so I definitely think about that. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to say worried, but just like I'm watching that for Instagram. And if it's going to be beneficial for me to be a business account or for me to be a personal account. And the benefits I think of being a business account would be the insights that you can get, the ability to like do branded content that's all within the guidelines of Instagram. I actually haven't done one of these yet, but there's a new way that they're asking business accounts to like disclose a paid partnership. You've probably seen it. It shows up where the like where the location would otherwise show up, just right under your name, and it'll say paid partnership with fill in the blank. So that's a benefit in that like you can properly make sure that you're compliant on all of that stuff. And then also being able to put links in to your Instagram stories. That's a really big deal. And that's what I just did on the, let me show you. If I switch over to this account, then I can see my Pinch of Yum thing. So for Pinch of Yum, you can see this one's at the bottom, it says see more. And if I swipe up, it takes me to the sign in page for this event. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I wasn't a business account. And so that's really, I think, a lot of the value for being a business account is being able to link to things, which then leads to the question, how many people are actually swiping up and like clicking on that stuff? And when we did, I think Jenna put this in Slack. Can you find it?
It was 1,400.
1,400 was like the average number of clicks or swipes of a URL that we put into the stories. And that's out of like 50,000 people-ish that are viewing the stories. So, and then if you're thinking like, well, I want people to buy a product or I'm promoting something from an affiliate perspective, then of the people that click, how many of them are actually going to buy and how much money is that going to translate to you, or how many signups or whatever. So I think thinking those things through before making the switch is a good thing to do. I don't have a strong opinion at this point. Like I haven't noticed a huge difference in my straight engagement. So I've just been sticking with it and kind of we're continuing to like watch the numbers of what happens when I put links in and all of that kind of stuff. The beauty is that right now you can switch your Instagram profile to a business account and still switch back to personal. So I'm like planning to maybe hold out for another month or two and kind of watch the numbers and then see if I want to switch back or not. But that is something to consider. And I was just saying to you the other day, there's some of these big like travel accounts that I follow, and none of them are business accounts. You know, they're huge. They have like millions of followers, and they're doing sponsored stuff that's most of the time not disclosed. And but they are getting, I think, a lot of really awesome engagement. And I would guess don't want to switch over to a business account because they don't want to be like pinged by Instagram as being a business account. So there are pros and cons to both. I haven't noticed a huge difference with each, but if I do notice a difference, I'll be sure to let you all know in Food Blogger Pro.
Great, cool. Yeah, and some questions coming in, or some people talked about for those links, it looks like it is maybe 10,000 is the mark. Like you have to get to a point where you have a certain number of followers in order to get those, which makes sense. And that was in the chat area. So if you haven't checked that out,
be sure to get the links instead of being a business account.
I think so.
So you could be a personal account, and just if you have 10,000 followers, then you can get links.
Yeah, maybe we can confirm in the chat area below.
That would be a good distinction to make.
Yep. So this story coming in from Pakistan: how can I use stories to further engage my audience and connect with them in a meaningful and useful way? And I know for you, Lindsay, that stories has continually been an important part of Instagram. Obviously, it's not relatively new at this point, but it's probably one of the newest, biggest features that they've released. And you've really leaned into that. Talked about it a little bit before, but for people that are interested in starting to use stories a little bit more, how can they use that to engage their audience? I'm thinking of a couple things for you. Number one would be the Q&As that you do, and using those. And then number two would be sharing others' content and being intentional to feature that in stories. So maybe you can share those things.
So here's a little story for you that kind of explains why I find, here's a story that explains why stories are powerful. So I was on watching somebody else's story the other day. This was like a couple months ago in the summer. And sorry, I accidentally clicked that. And they were making a peach cobbler. And she was like, here it is coming out of the oven. And that's really all it was. Like, here it is coming out of the oven and a scoop of it. And it's not like it looks perfect and beautiful. Like, it's just in her kitchen. It wasn't even a food blogger, actually. And she was like, I love this recipe. Here's the screenshot of the recipe, or not even a screenshot. I think it was like a recipe card, and she took a picture of it. And I was like, I need to make that. Like, I'm going to make that right now. And I don't think that I would have felt that way had she just shared one of her professional looking photos from her blog post. If it would be like a highly styled picture of peach cobbler, it wouldn't have necessarily made me say like, I need to make it right now. But it's almost like talking to a friend and having a friend say, oh my gosh, I just made this recipe and it is so good, you need to make it. That's going to be more compelling to me. And so that's really what I've leaned into with stories, is this idea that like we can have beautiful images and people can love those and like them. And we can have videos that are really, able to explain a recipe clearly. But I think one of the most powerful ways to influence people and convince them that this is something really good and you should try it is to just show it in a setting that looks like what's familiar to them. So I'll just go in the kitchen and I'll be like, here I am. I'm stirring up the soup. I blended it. Here's my mess over here. And then here's what it looks like in the bowl. Here's what it looks like when I scoop the spoon through it. So really showing things that you wouldn't be able to show with like a formally styled picture. That I find to be extremely compelling for people. And when I post that on my stories, I get so many messages. If I don't say like the recipe's coming soon, or here's the recipe, I get so many messages from people like, where is the recipe? I need to make that right now today. And I had people making the pumpkin recipes that I just posted before I even posted it, because I did a little screenshot of the recipe draft on my blog post. And then people within the hour are making the muffins, sending me a picture of it. So like Bjork mentioned before, that feedback loop is really tight, and you're able to say, hey, this is awesome, you should make it. And immediately people are saying, oh, cool, I'm going to make it. This is like a recommendation from a friend. I trust it. I'm going to make it. This is what it looks like in my kitchen. And that cycle being a really positive thing. And then the other thing would just be showing, and I think you mentioned this, showing just like behind the scenes, more personal parts of your life. And I think that can be a really sticky way to have people thinking about your brand and stay top of mind. And on a deeper level, like to give people valuable information, to make people feel connected to something. This is a great example, even though it's a little random. There's an account that I follow, and she's an author, and she just talks about her life on her stories. And yesterday she went on and she talked about how she feels like she has a glass of wine every afternoon. And she's like, I just feel like I don't want to be drinking every day just to drink. And so here's what I'm doing instead. And here's the conversation we're having around how much drinking is too much, and should we have a glass of wine after work, or should you just have something else? She talked about like her little hack for doing something different. And I have been thinking about that for like the last 3 days. Like I've spent a lot of time thinking about that. And like, I'm so intrigued to continue watching her stories about that. It is hugely influential and impacting to me to watch these little videos. And I don't know her at all. Like she's just an author that I follow. So I think there's just so much potential with stories to make a really lasting impression, whether you want that to be because you want attention in economics, or you want to just like put good in the world and make people feel connected to something and share parts of your life. I think you could view it from either perspective. But stories are, I think, super, super important, especially if you want more of your lifestyle and like more of an influencer side to be involved in what you're doing on Instagram.
Cool. I like that we kind of have this trade-off back and forth thing.
Yeah.
And then I have to do this in the camera. High differential problems. Guitar, should I maintain a theme on my Instagram? So I'm guessing what this is talking about, a theme meaning general trend, or, you know, when I look at Pinch of Yum, it's like there's kind of a theme here. And you talked about that before and separating out some of your personal stuff from your business stuff, but maybe if you could revisit that one more time to talk a little bit about your strategy with that and why that's important for building followers, and if people should do that, separate that out.
Yes, is my answer. Yes, absolutely. And I would say 2 ways you can think about a theme. The first way is the theme of your content. And the second way would be like your visual theme. And another way to say that would be just like how you're branding things or the niche that you're in. Okay, so here's Pinch of Yum Instagram. It's all food. There's a one like mountain video there that was from a travel thing that we did. But everything is food. And even when I do that mountain video, that I know when I post that, like that's a video from our vacation. It's actually really beautiful. I'll just put it up here for a second while I'm talking about it. Made by my friend Landon, Love Films. If you're looking for a wedding videographer, plug for him. So when I post that, I know that's like off brand for me a little bit, because it's not like I talk about travel stuff on my Instagram. On my stories, it's totally on brand because I am doing behind the scenes of my life and whatever. And so to post when I'm on vacation, totally on brand. But then I know that it's off brand. And I think one of the benefits of knowing your brand and your niche is knowing how to go off brand. It's not that you can't ever go off brand. It's just knowing how to do that well. So that would be an example of a post that is not food, but all the rest of these are food. All of them are food. That is my theme. And even visually, they all have a similar look and feel. These ones up at the top, we're playing with some different styles, so they don't necessarily all have the same look and feel, but especially right down here, a lot of these start to look the same. They all have that overhead angle. The colors are generally the same. Perspective is the same. If you look at my personal Instagram account, this is where I just talk about life and what's going on for us in our life and just personal things. But so the theme is just my life and personal things, but visually it all has a similar look. And that has to do with how I edit photos and how I take like my photography style. Another good example of this would be, I'll look up my friend who does Cooking with Angela. So all her style is all the same, like visually, that's all the same, and content. So she's the same on both fronts. Another example of someone that does more lifestyle stuff, Lee from America, I love her account. She has herself in it. She keeps herself in it, but it's still like that is her brand, is her lifestyle. So her theme is her life. Whereas my theme is my food. And then I have a separate account for my life. But her theme is like her life. And she has pictures that are all of all different stuff, but they all, again, have that similar look and feel. And that has to do with how she's editing them, what she's taking the pictures with. So I think if I could sum everything I just said down in one sentence, it would just be, think about not only the content, the theme or the brand or the niche of your content, but also the visual theme and how you're creating continuity through varied content just by how you're visually producing the content. That was a lot of uses of the word content.
Content.
That's what I'm all about.
That's what it comes down to. Cool. We have a couple more questions coming in. And we have a couple more to hit here, and then we'll jump over to some of the ones that have been coming through. So this question, this was a good question, and there's, good multiple questions in this longer question. So a huge part of the fun of Instagram is sharing photos right away, Instagram, or soon after an event happens when all the enthusiasm that made you take the picture in the first place is very real and present. here's the different questions that would be good to address. Do you feel you're still able to reap the emotional benefit of this feature, assuming that you do what I do and schedule posts? So do you still feel connected to the content, even if it's a little bit later? How far in advance do you schedule your posts? And if you don't, how do you manage to keep up so much content?
Very good questions.
Yeah.
So I hardly ever like live post something. If I am live posting, like in the moment when it's happening, that's going on my stories. But in terms of content that I post to either my personal or my food, is it for sure the food pinch of on Instagram? That is like days in the making, usually, for both the photos and the captions. And obviously in the case of the food Instagram, it's like getting the recipes ready and stuff like that. So I'm hardly ever reaping the emotional benefit of that, except that I am always reaping the emotional benefit of that in stories, of like that real-time sharing. On my personal Instagram, it's maybe a little bit of a tighter circle between when I take the picture and when I post it. Like the most recent post that I did, I took it like 2 days ago, and then I did the post yesterday. So it's like a 1 day delay in between, but it's very rarely like on the spot, take a picture, and then I'm good to go to post, because I want to spend time editing it. I want to really think through my caption and things like that. How far in advance, question 2, how far in advance do you schedule your posts? We're like about a week out for Pinch of Yum Instagram. So those are built into co-schedule, and Jenna, our office manager, helps a lot with that. And obviously we have video content as well as blog content. So she's basically pulling from all the different places, taking videos from Alana, who's our video specialist, and taking content from the blog, putting those all together, putting them into co-schedule. And then I'm actually doing the posting live via co-schedule, but those are scheduled out about a week, sometimes 2 weeks in advance, and sometimes more if we're working with a brand. Like I know we have one coming up, actually a few coming up in 2018, and those are like already on the calendar. Like we're going to do an Instagram post for this brand on this day. So those we get on the calendar pretty far in advance. And then if I don't schedule content, this is question 3, how do we manage to keep up so much content? And for my personal account, this would probably be a better example, because this is where I don't schedule content. Like this is just my life as it happens. And like between my last 2 posts, it was more than a week that went by with posting. So sometimes I just have more content and I'm able to post more frequently, and sometimes I don't. And I go a week, sometimes more than a week, without posting. It's more like when I have a good picture to share or when I have a thought to share, then that's when it happens. It's a little more organic, which is good. Also means there might be longer pauses between.
Cool. Great. And the last question that we have before we're going to jump into some of these other ones, this was really common variations on this. People essentially saying, how do you get more followers? And I think that's what everybody wants to know in some way, shape, or form, is how do I grow my following? So if you were to address that kind of general question, what are some of the things that you would say?
So this is calling back a little bit to some of those first things that I talked about, but I think above all else, like if I could say one thing, it's just have good content, like have engaging, powerful, emotionally stimulating content, something that people see and makes them go, oh my gosh, I got to show that to so-and-so, or, oh my goodness, can you believe this? Or this is amazing. This is making me feel so happy. This is making me so mad. Why did they make the mac and cheese green? Any type of engaging content is going to be at the heart of how you continue to grow your following. It's going to drive attention naturally. And then I think also we mentioned before, hashtags. Using hashtags is a really good way to get more followers, not only because you'll get people who are perusing those hashtags, like just looking for fun stuff to look at, but you'll also get people who, people/accounts who pull their curated content from those hashtags, and you have run the chance of getting a feature on one of those. This is kind of another example of the same thing that we've talked about, but there's someone that I met at a workshop that I attended last month, and I think she had, I don't know how many followers she had, but like maybe 1,000, let's say, followers. And she had a video, this little stop motion video that she did, and it was picked up by the feed because she used their hashtag, and they posted it in their feed. And so therefore they sent a lot of traffic or people to her account, and she got a lot of follows that way. And now she has like 2,500 followers. So those kind of boosts are pretty significant. And so I would really encourage you to just hang with some of those branded hashtags. When I do hashtags, I try to do like a third to a half of them related to the food specifically. So in the case of this soup, we've got soup, vegan, plant-based, plant strong on the table. this isn't a great example. But more often than not, I would have things like that has cauliflower in it. So I would say cauliflower, cashews, like actually hashtag the ingredients. And then the other 70% are hashtags like BuzzFeed food, F52 grams, or hashtags that will put my content into a tank where I know those bigger sites pull their content from. And then the last thing that I would say would be to just use the platform. And I mentioned that before, but just use it. The more you use it, I think the more you think and speak and like operate, your brain operates in Instagram language and Instagram speak, and how it works, how people are using it, what type of content people like to see. Just using it and getting like more juice to your account. The more you're engaged, the more Instagram views you as a valuable user. And your content has, higher potential to reach people, I think. So
cool.
Yep.
Great. All right. So what I'm going to do now, what I would like to do is kind of a rapid fire question round.
Like it. Okay.
So we have a few of these. We'll take questions from the live chat. You can put them in that URL too, but I'll keep an eye on the live chat area. And we have some ones that have come in that Alexa has relayed over. So first one, how about rapid fire list of tools that you use that relate to Instagram? And that could be photo editing tools, it could be scheduling, it could be communication tools, anything like that.
Okay. I'm not really going to explain them. I'm just going to say what they are. CoSchedule.
Yep.
Did you want to say
well,
something?
maybe like a one sentence explainer.
Yeah. So CoSchedule is for scheduling content. Okay. Visco Cam, VSCO Cam, I use for my personal, I'll pull that back up, personal Instagram for editing those photos. It helps to create like a consistent look and feel with my photos. So I use that app for photo editing. Planoly is an app that that allows you to see your feed. I don't use this a ton, but it's a good app to consider. It allows you to draft something and see what that's going to look like in your feed without actually posting it, which is really cool if the visual look of your feed matters to you, which it should matter to you because it's Instagram. And then it also allows you to come in and see your stats and look at, these are the top posts from the month, and these are the top likes, comments, etc. So it's another like analytics type app. And then I don't know. Can you think of anything else?
I don't think so.
Link and profile we use. So that is like, what would you call that? It's not really an app.
Web app
that you put, you can see right there, it says link and profile. And when I tap that, it just enables me to have a URL in my post that people can then click on that would take them straight to the website, which is a little bit slow right now. But the idea is that you make it easier for people to jump to your website. We don't find that a ton of people click over, like maybe 500 to 1,000 on every post, which when you're considering how many people actually see that post, it's a pretty small percentage of people that actually click over. But that we use that also.
Yeah, great, cool. So I'll take this one just to give you a break. It's like you've had to talk a lot. You're gonna have some of your good earth tea. Yeah. There we go. I'll adjust this up. So one of the questions was, how do you monetize on Instagram? And I'll talk about this a little bit, and then Lindsay, if you want to talk about kind of some of that as well, maybe add anything you want to what I'm saying. But before I do, I'm going to take a quick drink. Lindsay's going to get water, and I am drinking. Can anybody guess what type of LaCroix that is without seeing it? The true LaCroix fans would know. And I will tell you in 3, 2, 1. Lemon. So monetizing through Instagram happens because, let me start that over, rewind. Monetizing through Instagram, how do you do that? It goes back to that idea of attention economics. Where are people paying attention? And the reason why brands aren't interested in working with people that have 500,000 Twitter followers is because there's not as much attention there. People aren't engaging in the same way. So wherever there is attention, there will be the potential to create an income from it. For us, for Pinch of Yum, the way that we choose to do that is we partner with brands and do sponsored content. And Lindsay switches over to Sage's advice. And that was like for a little promo.
Yeah,
little
just
Sage's
promo.
advice promo.
Yeah, just if
completely unrelated.
Any examples from that?
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
But the idea is that brands will come to you and say, we see that there's a lot of attention here, or you can go to brands and say, we have a lot of attention. Would you be interested in working with us? And for a brand, for a PR agency or a brand, they know that if they're able to get in front of people, that has the potential to result in sales for the product. So that's a traditional influencer marketing sponsored content. That's what that Influencer Academy masterclass that we're doing is all about. It's talking about the process that we use for that. So that's the primary way for Pinch of Yum. Do you have a video you could pull up, a sponsored content video? So you can see what that looks like. It's possible to do it with photos as well. But this is a Chobani, sponsored by Chobani video. So that's a really clear example of how we're creating a video. It has 130,000 views. And for a brand, it's like a really strong commercial, but it's also a commercial that people are interested in watching. It's not interrupting their content, it is the content. And that's why it's valuable, and that's why brands are starting to see that as a valuable tool to create an income. But that's not the only way that you can use Instagram to create an income. You can also, like on the Food Blogger Pro Instagram account, we have a small following, or a smaller following, because we're just getting started, of just over 1,000 people. But we use that to promote events like this that we then have, where you can see this, we posted about it twice. We're talking about this actual course. And then when people sign up for this, then we talk about Food Blogger Pro and signing up for Food Blogger Pro. So we're not doing sponsored content. We're talking about our own products within the Food Blogger Pro Instagram account. Another thing that we're doing for Food Blogger Pro members is we're including them and featuring their content. So that's one of the ways that we do the content.
Oh yeah, so people could use that hashtag.
Yeah, so you can use that as a branded hashtag. And then the other thing we do is we promote the Food Blogger Pro podcast. So if you go down a little bit, there's a different slide, and there's pull quotes from the Food Blogger Pro podcast. So those are all ways that we're promoting our own products and creating an income from that in a way that's not monetized directly through sponsored content or brands. So that's another possibility. And the last one that I know some people do is they integrate in with some type of affiliate links. And I'm not as familiar as with those types of products. Do you know, for fashion bloggers, how they do that, or what the?
Yeah, I mean, your affiliate links can be in your stories. Your affiliate links can be in your stories. I feel like we're just kind of playing around with that. Like to Know It is a big like shopping Instagram loop where people can wear something and then, take a picture of themselves wearing it. And then if you hit like, then you get an email. You have to sign up for this program. But if you like that photo, you'll get an email with affiliate links to all those products. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I've just been playing around with just recently in the last week or two, just been playing around with putting in affiliate links in my stories. And the important thing, I think, is just remembering disclosures. So that if people are swiping up, that they understand that that's an affiliate link, that's something that you can make a commission on, just to be on the up and up with that. But yeah, that's, I think, what a lot of people are doing. I think it's especially biggest for like lifestyle or fashion bloggers.
Great. Somebody was asking specifically about how you craft your captions and spacing for those. Can you talk about why that's important and how you do that?
Yes. Okay. Maybe we can find this article and copy it in. So the basic easiest way to do it is just to use a period to create a line break. But the problem, it's not a problem, but just the thing to think about. Let me find one that is that way. Like this, you can see there's a period between each line. And that's really nice just because you want to break up your content so it's a little easier to read. But the latest thing that I've found is I found a way to put those line spaces in without the period, which is really awesome. So there's just a special, honestly, I have no idea what it is. I don't know if it's like a certain number of spaces or what, but it's a blog post that I found that gives you the little thing between the brackets to copy and paste. And then I just created a keyboard shortcut. So whenever I type these three letters, then those spaces pop in, and then that creates a line break for me within Instagram. And Jenna also uses that then when she's scheduling and drafting captions on CoSchedule. Does that answer the question? And I can look for that article later. Great. Or somebody could look for that.
Yep, and we can post that in the chat. And we'll also make sure to post that down below the video. So one of the things that we'll do for this is we'll take this video and put it into Food Blogger Pro. So it's available on Food Blogger Pro. And are you just gonna?
I wanted to show one thing real quick.
Yeah.
Speaking of articles.
Great.
This article, I suppose we could have just pulled it up on the,
yeah.
On the screen. But this article is super powerful and interesting, and it just shows like different visual characteristics that generate more likes. So it's not like I don't use this and follow this, but I just find it really fascinating. So this is another link to a post from Curate that we could share somewhere.
Cool. And I will let you, do you want to look up that other article over here?
Yes.
You can do it on the second screen here. 2 monitors, we're super nerdy. So we have some other questions coming in. We'll be able to hit a couple more of these, but this has been really fun. Really enjoy connecting with you guys, and it's always something where we're a little bit nervous about like, this is live and people interacting live, but whenever we end up doing it, it's always really fun. So a couple questions that are related to hashtags. People have asked questions about, a lot of questions about how to find those different hashtags, the ones where you can feature and being intentional for finding those. Lindsay can add on to this, but what I would say is, if you're in the beginning stages, I think you can start smaller and level up. So idea being, maybe there are, Food Blogger Pro would be a good example. We have 1,500 people or over 1,000 people that are following along there. And that maybe you're not at the point where feed or one of these big accounts is going to feature you, but you can find some of the smaller accounts that are gathering photos from other places and start to use those hashtags as a way to get attention a little bit easier, because chances are, I know for us, for Food Blogger Pro, we're not getting as many people that are reaching out to us as something like Feed would. And so it's easier for us to look through those, to feature those, the chances are higher. And it might not be as big of an impact, but you can start out small and you can get that snowball rolling. One of the things that's so true for any of this, whether it be building a blog, building an Instagram following, whether it be building a following on Facebook, is that it ties into that snowball analogy. Things start slow, it's really small, and the hill that you're on isn't very steep, but if you show up every day and you move it forward a little bit, eventually it will get to the point where it's going to be able to move a little bit faster, it's going to get bigger, you're going to have more momentum with it, and that takes a long time though. And it's important to remember how much time it takes in order to truly have success with these things. I was just talking earlier we got an email from a friend of ours who has been blogging for 4 or 5 years now and is just at the point where it's like starting to hit her stride, is able to make that transition into it actually being a full-time income. So same is true for Instagram. You started in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
So been doing it for 5 years. I really think that 3, 4, 5 year mark of consistent, intentional content creation is really an important mark. So you just shared that link over, and we'll put that into the chat area. And that one, if you want to search for it, it's called How to Automatically Add Line Break in Instagram Caption. And it's from something called Preview App. So again, how to automatically add the line break in the Instagram caption. Is there anything else that you would want to hit as kind of a final question that you'd hit before I jump in and talk a little bit about Food Blogger Pro?
I think I would just want people to know that for us with Pinch of Yum and how we've grown, the account, it's like we're at 500,000 now, which is really awesome, almost 510,000. But like I've gone even from 500 to 510,000, like 100 times faster than I went from 0 to 1,000. Like the snowball effect, and we were kind of looking at that graph last night, but like when I started, it took me 4 years probably to even cross like 100,000. And then it's been half the time to get from 100,000 to 500,000. So there is a snowball effect that happens. And I think when you're in those beginning stages of like, oh, I just have a few hundred followers, maybe like 50 followers or something, that can be really discouraging and slow going. So my encouragement is just to know that even for us, and we feel really excited to be at 500,000 followers, but even for us, it's not like there's a magic hack. Like there was a long time of us not having that many followers before we actually got to that point. So just something to know and be encouraged about this is so interesting. I
It
feel like
changes.
I'm in like a
This is
different
Minnesota.
room right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, does that make sense? Just
Yep.
kind of thinking about that graph overall and like just like the growth, the slow growth of that, and that growth kind of becoming a snowball. The more growth you get, the more growth you will get.
Yep, that's great.
Yeah.
Cool. Great. How are we doing? Give me an woot woot if you guys are still here and still feeling good about it. Woot woot. Great. I'm going to jump in. I'm going to talk about what I think is going to be a really important thing for a lot of people, and that is Food Blogger Pro. So we have this membership site called Food Blogger Pro, and we have been working on this site, building this community for the past 4 to 5 years. And we do these events because of these, we're able to promote Food Blogger Pro, connect Food Blogger Pro, and connect people to Food Blogger Pro. And you can, be here. You can do color commentary.
I'm just getting my spot so that I can be with my water over here.
We can do a cheers.
Yeah, I'll just be over here.
Okay. And for whenever we do these events, whether it's a fireside chat or if we do a boot camp, which sometimes we call these, we put together this thing called a boot camp bundle. And with Food Blogger Pro, enrollment is limited, so you can't sign up all the time. We only do enrollment periods. And for people that are interested in signing up, one of those times is right now. And we're putting together this package called the Boot Camp Bundle that includes Food Blogger Pro, NutriFox, and Influencer Academy. So what I wanted to do right now is talk a little bit about what's included with each one of those, and then also hit any questions that come up as I'm talking through this. So if you want to, you can go ahead and drop those questions into the chat area. I'll hit those as I'm talking about these. And while I'm doing that though, I'd be interested to hear if there's anybody that's on the live portion right now that's currently a member of Food Blogger Pro. And I would love for you to talk about the #1 takeaway that you've had and where that was from. Was it from the community forum? Was it from a video that you watched and applied to your blog? Where was the most important piece of content or the most important area on Food Blogger Pro? And what was the impact for you on that? A lot of the things that we hear from people that learned how to structure their ads. And I'm thinking of one person specifically on her blog. She learned that she had enough traffic to leave her day job, but she didn't understand how ads worked. And when she started to understand ads, she changed it, and it allowed her to leave her job as a nurse, which she liked, but she didn't know that it was possible for her to change careers and to focus on her blog full time. So that was one member. Or we've had another member that's been working on their blog for a long time and has improved their food photography from the videos and the impact that that's had on traffic from Pinterest and general engagement on her blog. And there's lots of different stories like that of people going through Food Blogger Pro and being a part of it and applying the things that they know and seeing growth for their blog from that. So I'm going to jump over here and talk about the different elements that are included with Food Blogger Pro. And before I do that, there's a couple questions that people had. Number one, there's some people that are watching here that are Food Blogger Pro monthly members. And if you want to do the Influencer Academy course, you can upgrade to the yearly plan and you'll get access to that when we do that in December. And that'll be a one-time course. Everybody goes through that. So if you are currently a member, a monthly member, you can upgrade to yearly. And you can see this, there's a support doc on support.foodbloggerpro.com that talks you through that upgrade process. It's just in your account area. And then the other thing that's important to note is that we're officially kicking off enrollment next Tuesday, but for anybody that attends this boot camp or this fireside chat, as we're calling it, you can sign up starting today using that boot camp bundle link down below.
And just show the pricing because I feel like you've been sitting on that price one.
Thank you. Yeah. So the actual price is $279. It's not that $497 price point. That's what it would be if all of those were separate. Together, the bootcamp bundle gets you the $279. Thank you for pointing that out. So that was Fabi's question. How much is it? Sage is saying hello in the background, so you can check that out. And then another question about Influencer Academy. So Influencer Academy is kind of a high touch course. So we're going to be using an app called Slack as well as one-off courses to walk people through the process of creating all of the different things that you need in order to work with brands and PR agencies. And those important things that you'd need would be a media kit. So we're going to be talking about how you can put together and create a media kit if you want to promote your blog or your Instagram account to brands and pitch them. We're going to be talking about how to put together something after the fact where you talk to the brand and say, here are the things that resulted from the campaign. Here are the numbers, how to design that and how to put that together. So it's really talking about start to finish, what you need to do as an influencer, the different pieces that you need in order to work with brands and work with PR agencies, whether that be on Instagram, whether that be with your blog or across the board with different social media accounts. So that's Influencer Academy. That's going to be happening not right away, but if you sign up for the bootcamp bundle, we'll let you know when that's starting. And just a reminder, this ends on November 21st. So that's when this is going to be closing up. We'll delete that comma. So talking about Food Blogger Pro a little bit, what's involved with Food Blogger Pro? This is the community forum. So the community forum is where members come in and they engage on a daily basis, ask questions, like somebody's asking about switching recipe plugins. Another person is asking about ConvertKit, what that is and why that's important. People asking about Pinterest long pins. It's a place where people that are building food-related websites and blogs and social media followings to have conversations around all of those questions that they have and for people to help each other out. We also have, as I showed before, the video area. The video topics that we have include building traffic, food photography. I'll click into food photography, just that's a really important one, especially for Instagram. And natural lighting for food photography. So if you shoot in natural light, this walks you through the process that Lindsay uses when she shoots on Pinch of Yum, all the food photography. Maybe you don't have natural light, or like what's happening right now, the natural light you do have shifts and changes a lot. There's an artificial lighting for food photography course. All of these things, these important topics are covered on Food Blogger Pro. So we have the videos, we do a live Q&A session just like this, kind of like this, once a month. We have some tools that we recommend, SEO checklist for blogs, social media checklist, course tracker, and then the community. This is the account area, not super exciting. And then we have NutriFox that's included with the bootcamp bundle as well. And if you are a blogger, it's becoming more and more important from an SEO perspective to have certain types of markup on your site. And one of the really important things to include is nutrition information. So we use this on Pinch of Yum. You probably see it in the different posts that we have. And that's included in the bootcamp bundle. So you can sign up for that as well.
Can you show on that? I'm jumping in here.
Yeah.
But can you show just what that looks like on a post?
Yep. So I'm going to go to Pinch of Yum. And you know one that would have it included
the golden
recently?
soup, I think, has the pumpkin muffins.
Yep.
Those two.
Great. So I'm going to scroll down here and I'll show you what it looks like on Pinch of Yum like this. So that's a NutriFox nutrition label being used on Pinch of Yum. So we pull that information from USDA, as well as you can add information if it's not there. So maybe a branded product that you want and it's not available.
Can I just give one other plug for that? It's super slick to do. It's not like a ton of extra work. You're copying and pasting your ingredient list, and then you're grabbing a little code and just putting it into your plugin, your recipe plugin. So it's not like 500 extra steps. It's one of the things that I love as a user. I can say that. I love that about NutriFox.
Cool.
The end.
Testimonial from Lindsay. One of the easier testimonials to get. So thank you for that. But we do use it a lot on Pinch of Yum, so you can see it being used there. So that's included as well with the bootcamp bundle. And then Influencer Academy, which we talked about. So we have 7 minutes left. I'm going to scroll through a couple of the comments here and answer any of those related to Food Blogger Pro, and want to make sure that people have a clear understanding of what that is. So we can hit those, and then we'll end by welcoming Sage in and having her be the kind of the credits. That'll be the credit rolling. Great. So let's see, some questions coming in. Some people, some Food Blogger Pro members talking about what they found beneficial. Emma said the videos on setting up a blog in Google Analytics and the tech stuff was super helpful for me. Didn't know anything about web setup and design. She said, I loved how Bjork and Lindsay walked through the steps of the setup process. Really appreciate that. LL Carey says, I'm so pumped for this. This is the kind of content I've really needed and had trouble finding. I get that you have to do it to really get a handle on it, but I can't leave my day job until I actually start making money. So my time is super limited. It's one of the things that we talk a lot about with Food Blogger Pro. It's not necessarily that it's the most secret content ever, but it's everything that you need for the niche in one place. It's a huge time saver. Daniela said the video tutorials and the podcast especially made me feel that I'm doing this. It's a real and absolutely realistic ambition. Makes me feel like I'm not alone in this and that I'm on a journey. Help and perspective is always around the corner. Question about Influencer Academy, which we talked about a little bit, but the idea is it's teaching you the things that we've learned about doing influencer marketing, sponsored content. It's all of the different tools that you'll need, as well as the forms and the media kit and things like that. So we're gonna walk you through the process of setting that up, and we're gonna do a lot of hand-holding along the way. Salted City said, looking forward to it. Sounds perfect. Chris Hester said, I've learned a ton about food photography, which was a real weakness for me and my wife. So really, there's a ton of great information inside Food Blogger Pro. Not only do Bjork and Lindsay provide a ton of value, but many of the members add tons of value within the forum area. Chris, totally agree with that. One of the things that we are most excited about with Food Blogger Pro is the awesome community. We actually have an area or a group of people called the FBP experts. And if I pull that up and spell it without an O, you can see that these are all the people that are active in the community forums and are experts. So Casey Marquis is an SEO expert. Andrew is really smart with WordPress. Lauren does WordPress development. Kate is, many of you might know her from Simple Pin Media. She's an expert and she's involved in the forums. Just recently, there's this huge issue with Pinterest where they started to include all of the recipe content within Pinterest. And so there's a lot of activity and conversation on the forums about what to do with that and how to approach that as a blogger. Danielle Liss, who maybe some of you know if you listen to the podcast, is a Food Blogger Pro expert. She talks about the legal side of things and why that's how you can approach that as a blogger, because you have a business and you need to approach the legal perspective as well. Lori asked a question. She said, is it scheduled training or at your own pace? At your own speed. All of the content on Food Blogger Pro is at your own pace. So when you log in, you'll have access to all of the content. None of it's going to be hidden or dripped out. You can select the stuff that you want to select, and all of that's available with that one price point. So you can sign up and you'll have all of it right away. A couple other questions coming in here about Food Blogger Pro that I want to make sure that we hit. Robin says, does NutriFox integrate with other recipe plugins? So you can use NutriFox as a little script on your blog, but we really like that it integrates in with the recipe plugin that we created called Tasty Recipes. But you don't need Tasty Recipes in order to use NutriFox. So you can have a different account and still use that. Lisa asks, how can I get access to Influencer Academy? She's already a member. So that's going to be available to all yearly members. So if you're a monthly member, you can upgrade. And then once we launch Influencer Academy, we're going to be giving access to all yearly members to that. So Emma says, we love using NutriFox on our site. It's really valuable. Thanks, Emma. The question coming in from, let's see. Can you just join Food Blogger Pro? Yes, you can. So you can use that bootcamp bundle link, or you can go to foodbloggerpro.com/bootcamp-bundle. That will bring you to the sign-up page. So that's available right now. We do enrollment periods, so it's not open all the time. So open limited amount of time. You can go there and sign up the bootcamp bundle page. And as Alexa said, you can do monthly, which is $29, or yearly, $279. The yearly plan includes Influencer Academy and NutriFox as well. Let's see, what do you use to create videos on Instagram? Instagram question. That would be all covered in Food Blogger Pro and would be much too extensive to talk about right here, but I can actually show you where that is. So I go to videos, and I go food video. And here we talk about all the equipment and settings that we use, the pre-production process that they use, Alana and Lindsay, putting everything together, and then the editing process, how to get a square video, how to use editing tools, how to speed up videos for Instagram if you want it to be fast moving. So all of these are covered in Food Blogger Pro. So all things that are available right away when you sign up. All right, so let's see. I'm going to see if there's any other questions that haven't been answered yet. And I think that we are getting close to the end with questions. Cool. I'll end with this. Chris, appreciate you saying this in the chat. Chris says, if you're not a member of F3P, it's worth way more than what the course costs. It's a game changer. So thanks, Chris, for that promo. Really, really appreciate it. And again, if you want to take advantage of that, you can just go to foodbloggerpro.com/bootcamp-bundle. And that will bring you to the yearly sign up page. I will sign out here so you can see what that looks like. And that will bring you to the page, Bootcamp Bundle, where you can sign up. And like we said, limited time, so it ends November 21st. That's when we close up enrollment. And this is everything that's included when you sign up for the Bootcamp Bundle. So appreciate you guys tuning in and being a part of this. Really, really appreciate it. It's fun for us to do. Lindsay, you want to come back up? And then we'll see if, Sage is in here. She made an appearance.
I brought her in.
Yeah, so should we, okay.
Can you pick her up?
Yeah.
I don't think I'm strong enough to pick her up.
Come here, Sage.
She has a new fall winter look that you'll be able to appreciate when she comes up. And she just got her teeth cleaned, so her breath smells really good.
There she
There she is with her
is.
fall bandana, and she has a little fall winter collar. Here, can you hold it for a second so I can show the collar?
There it is.
We are very much dog people. Look at her cute little collar with the bears. Such a good holiday look for that good girl.
There we go.
Hey, baby.
She's super excited.
She's our mascot for Pinch a Pen and for Food Blogger Pro. So.
Yeah.
But thanks for being here, everybody. It was really fun to do a little Instagram chat with you. And if you have further questions, and if you are a part of Food Blogger Pro and you jump in the forum, I would love to weigh in where appropriate about Instagram.
Thanks, guys. Ooh, that was kind of a cool little ending. And we will end on the bell. That's what this was. Lindsay hit her pen on the.
I was just
this is the official end of the end of the Fireside chat.
Is the end.
Thank you guys,
Thanks,
and looking forward to connecting with you if we see you on the other side of Food Blogger Pro. Otherwise, we will stay connected in all of the different ways that we do, and just really appreciate you guys. So I'm going to stop the screen share, and I'm going to officially end the meeting. Really fun to hang out today. Thanks, guys. Oh, one last thing before we go. For the people that are still in the chat, can we give a round of applause for all the Food Blogger Pro team members that are here? Jasmine, Alexa, Raquel, and then Pinch of Yum team wasn't here as well, but they're a huge part of this, and we could not do this without them, and want to give them a shout out. So make sure to give a thank you to them as well for making this happen. Applause, applause, applause. Okay, officially done.